And we are live. Hi, good evening, everybody. Welcome to She Built It Boss Lady Chronicles. I am Sharita Gaskins Tollett. I am your host. And this is the show where we feature everyday women who have owned their power to transform their lives. And I'm sharing their stories with you, and they're sharing their stories with you. And we're really excited about that. If you are watching us live, please say hi in the comments. Please let us know where you're watching from. If you are watching the replay, hashtag replay, still let us know where you're watching us from. If you have questions, don't hesitate to put those in the comments. If you're watching the replay and you have questions, I'll still pass them on to our guest. So I am super excited about tonight's guest. She is a real powerhouse, and I can't wait to introduce her to you. So I won't wait. I will jump right in. So I have with me tonight Julie DeLucca-Collins. Julie is a highly sought after speaker, business coach, and author of the top selling book, Confident You. Featured on prominent media outlets such as Fox and ABC, she is dedicated to empowering women entrepreneurs to build and grow successful businesses. A certified Tiny Habits and Thrive Global coach, she provides holistic guidance to her clients. Her influence extends to the airwaves, where she hosts a radio show, Confident You, on a top rated global radio network. Always looking to give back, she serves as a member of the Governor's Council for Women and Girls in Connecticut. Additionally, she has been honored with a nomination for the prestigious LeadHersAward by the United Way's Women United group. When she's not working with her clients, she'll be recording episodes for her top rated podcast, Casa de Confidence, which she co hosts alongside her hot, handsome husband. I laugh every time I see that. Welcome, Julie.
Hi, Sharita. Thank you for having me. What a pleasure. I appreciate you hosting me.
Well, thank you so much for coming on and agreeing to share your story with us. And I can't wait to hear it. So I'd like to usually start with a similar question. This my group is called Boss Lady Dream Builders. This
Mhm.
show is She Built It, Boss Lady Chronicles. And so just in listening to your bio, knowing that you are an author, a coach, a podcast host, what you didn't say in there, but which I know, is that you're also a retreat host. So Julie kind of does it all. And so I think you embody boss lady. And so my question is, were you born a boss lady or did you have to become one?
I think that definitely I had some roots in the boss lady department. I am the firstborn, and I think that a lot of times firstborns tend to be very outspoken. And that definitely is the description people will say about me being little. When I was little, I was very outspoken. I started dancing and performing and reciting poetry at an early age. So certainly I've been in the limelight, and for me, it came very easily. I lived in with a family. My grandmother was a force to be reckoned with. She was definitely the definition of a boss lady, and I learned a lot from her. I learned to take initiative, to be independent, to also have compassion for those around us, and that the true sign of a leader is not the person that's standing in front, but it's the person that leads by example, and it's not afraid to get in there and get their hands dirty. So
Yes,
certainly that's been
absolutely.
something that has driven through my life. But to go back to your question, I also had to learn some lessons as a boss lady because people can tell us, people can say, do this, but it's mostly about us practicing. And there's times in which I needed to become better at showing
Yeah.
up, leading, and doing the things that we all aspire to do.
So now I know you have all of these wonderful things going on now, but that's not where you started. So tell us about your beginnings.
Yeah. Well, thank you again. I think for me, and this is why I loved having these conversations. It is incredibly important to be able to share that we didn't always have it all together. And I am the epitome of that. When I started my career as a teacher, and I knew that I loved teaching, working with kids. And eventually there was something that was missing from that, and I wanted more. So I decided to pursue something else. And I was recruited by a national educational company, and it combined both my background in education and my background also in uh, retail retail sales because
Okay.
I really love working at a retail store through college and helped me along the way, but I knew that that was not for me. And although I love teaching, I also knew that that was not necessarily fully for me. And when I was recruited by this organization, it actually combined everything that I loved about the being in a store and also about being a leader and being a teacher and helping others. And I started to grow through the ranks of that organization. It is a wonderful organization. They do a very good job of training people from within the organization. And I started to climb the corporate ladder. By the time I left that company, I was at the executive director level, soon to be in the VP level. And certainly I decided to shift, right? Decided to shift to another organization because I wanted to change. I think that sometimes that restless spirit in us kind of rears its head. And at the time, I also was traveling a lot. I was away from home, and I really wanted to focus more on being home and getting my health together as well, because as you can imagine, traveling kind of takes a toll from you. I went to work for another
Absolutely.
organization still in New York that was an organization that focused on education. And I loved being able to help that organization continue to grow and expand using all of the things that I had learned, the experience, and help to build that organization to create programs and business lines outside of New York City. We expanded to several different states. And by the time I left the organization, I was the chief innovation officer. So I oversaw all of our contracting, but also all of the training. And it was an incredible experience for me to, again, continue to grow in my skills, continue to hone in what I was already doing and get better at it while also helping others. And that really set me in this path. Now, I would not be honest if I didn't say that I've always had a little bit of an entrepreneurial spirit and
Okay.
that little flame. My first job as an entrepreneur or my first business, as you may want to call it, I was 12. I started to build a little side hustle so I can buy myself those designer jeans for school. I grew up with a single mom, right? So I had to get it very
Yeah.
enterprising. And throughout the years, I've always had like a little something here and there going. And I knew that eventually, somewhere along the line in the future, I would start my own thing. In 2016, I actually got a coaching certification. Now, I got the coaching certification in holistic coaching mainly for me. I wanted to continue to have some growth. I'd been through a lot of personal development changes. I had gone through a divorce and again, continue to sort of evolve. And I thought, this might be a really cool thing that I could do somewhere in the future. And it seemed like such a far away future. So I continued to work for the organization, travel again, expand what we were doing, get a couple promotions along the way, remarried. And all of the sudden, I knew that, hey, I gotta take that next step. Maybe this is the right time. But I was scared. I was incredibly scared of taking the next leap. So, that's a little bit of what put me in this path. Now, 2020, as we know, came about and shut down the world. And the
Yes.
organization that I worked with was hit very hard. And I was offered a separation package. I was being laid off. Now, I've never been fired or laid off from a job, so I
Yeah.
it was a shock, and at the same time as I felt the shock, I also remember being on the phone and listening to the words, "We have to, let you go. We have to, do this," and I was listening, and yes, there was a bit of sadness, but then there was also this little bit of excitement, like, "Oh, wait a minute. Now I
Mhm.
can know exactly what I'm gonna do. I'm gonna go forward and follow this little dream that I have," and I knew that I wanted to continue to help others, I knew that I wanted to help women in particular because as I grew through the corporate ladder, the one thing that continued to really strike me is how the higher you get, the less women can be found. The higher
Yeah.
you get, the less women that look like me, a Hispanic girl, or even other minorities are really difficult to find at those higher level in corporate. So I wanted to do something that would take my experience and support others in leadership in becoming better at their corporate and career to go in and achieve dreams. And my initial intent was to go and help women and be a leadership or executive coach. And that's what I set up to do until a couple people said, "Hey, I know that you have experience in starting a business or doing this and creating a business plan and marketing. Can you help me?" And I thought, "Sure, why not?" And the next thing you know, there was another person and another person. And when someone said to me, "Hey, you've been amazing. Thank you so much. Did you know that last year I made more money in December than I made the entire year previous to that?" And for the first time after being a stay-at-home mom for almost 20 years, I matched my husband's salary. And there was such pride in her that I knew that I could take the experience, the knowledge, and be able to help her and other women like her who wanted to build a dream, who wanted to go after what they knew was their passion and purpose, and really support them with the tangible skills of learning how to run their business like a business. Because many of us, and by the way, I want to raise my hand because when I started my business, I wasn't running it like a business. And things finally turned around when I said, "Julie, if you were reporting to, your bosses and you were in corporate America, you would be doing things very differently." And that's when I started to turn my business around, and now I help other women do the same.
Wow. So, Julie, you have just given us an entire masterclass. There's so much in
Well, I
there.
don't know
Uh,
about
uh,
that,
no,
Sharita,
no,
but
you
thank
really
you.
have. Maybe you don't know, but you really have. And so, I think the first place I want to start to kind of deconstruct this a little bit is the restlessness. You
Mhm,
talked about feeling this restlessness early on and changing, changing jobs and things like
yeah.
that. And it's interesting because I think a lot of us feel restless, but a lot of us also don't feel like we have the agency to pivot. So, what do you
Mhm.
think, gave you that confidence to, to pursue other opportunities?
One of the excuse me, one of the first things that really comes to mind is that most of us fear the unknown.
Yes.
And that's what really keeps us in that place where we're afraid to take a leap. The reality is that if we look into the future, and this is a little bit of what I leverage in my life, is the fear of the unknown greater today? Or is the fear of what could have been, and I don't know what could have been in the future, greater? And when I look at the things in my life, this is actually what has propelled me, right? I remember the first time as I was climbing the corporate ladder, I had an instance with one of my bosses, the CEO of the company, and I had just finished a project. I had put together this whole event and spoken at the event. It was a huge success. And as we were kind of riding high from this wonderful experience, he said, "Oh my gosh, you were amazing. What do you want? Tell me. I want to."
Mm,
Um, and by the way, I there were so many things right going through my brain, and I said, "I need a promotion. I need
mm,
this salary, and I, would also like to work from home." And by the way, this is 2006, so we weren't working necessarily from home. So,
wow.
I said, "I'm gonna need a laptop so I can work from home some days." And I remember as soon as I said it, I felt like, "Ooh, okay. Oh, no. What did I just say?" But I knew that I needed to take and shoot my shot. I knew that I needed to do that because if a week, a month, a year later I could look back and say I tried and failed, or I could say I don't know what would have been.
Yes.
And I got the promotion. I got to
Did you
work
get
from
the
home.
laptop?
I did get the laptop. I was one
Okay.
of the first people that had a laptop. And and I also got they also gave me my own cell phone, which was a little BlackBerry, which carried around everywhere. But yeah, we are so afraid of the fear of the right now, the uncertainty of what is here for us today, that we forget that our future self is going to have to deal with the fear of, did I lose the opportunity? Or also question what would have been. And
Right.
I rather know that I failed and learned how to do it better or try again than know that I don't even know if I would have failed and where I
Right.
would have ended if I took the leap.
Because at the end of the day, there's no failure, right? It's only
Mhm.
lessons. I mean, that's what
Absolutely.
I've come to understand that, when things don't work out, we're supposed to take the lesson from that and then keep going. The reason so
Yeah.
many people don't succeed, don't get to their dreams is because they stop. But I
Yeah.
honestly believe that's the only way to truly fail is to just
Mhm.
not do anything,
Yeah.
to stay in
Agreed.
inaction.
100%. I don't often tell this story, but this is the other thing that really propels me. When I was in 8th grade, no, 7th grade. Yeah, 7th grade. 7th grade in middle school, and actually it was junior high at the time. I really wanted to be a cheerleader. And I went to tryouts, and I was okay, not great, and I did a lot of what we still do to this day. I started to compare and despair. I started to measure myself with the other girls that maybe could do more graceful cartwheels or splits, and 2 days before the tryouts, I decided to quit and give up
Mhm.
because I thought, "I'm never gonna make it." So I still question whether I would have made it or not. And by the way, when I moved to another school the following year, I tried out for cheerleading and I made it. And the thing is that we won't ever know. And that lesson reminds me. So there's times in which I'm wondering, should I do this? I don't know. Oh my goodness. And I start to get into my brain. I go back to that girl and wonder, right? Do I still want to wonder if I would have made it? Or could I have had learned to improve even if I had a no, right? Because a
Right.
no doesn't necessarily mean never. A no
Right.
can be not right now. And that's what we forget.
Exactly. Exactly, exactly. And then, you also bring up a great point about comparing ourselves to other people.
Mhm.
I often say that we compare our everyday lives to people's highlight reel, especially
Mhm.
here in the
Yeah.
age of social media. And the bottom line is we're all here, we're all created on purpose with a purpose, our own individual purpose. There's nobody who can do the things that you can do the way that you do them. And the world needs a you. And so there's no
Mhm.
reason for us to compare ourselves to other people and to, kind of stay small and sell ourselves short. So
Mm.
I appreciate you saying that. Now,
Yeah.
one of the other things that you mentioned about your journey that I really loved is this whole continuous education. I guess is what I will call it, or you're a lifelong learner. It
Yes.
seems, and I think that that's another one of the characteristics that I see in a lot of successful
Mm.
women that they just keep gaining skills because you say you started as a
Mhm.
teacher, then you ended up in corporate America, and climbed the ladder there and now an entrepreneur. What do you think about that?
I think that that's definitely something that works to my advantage, but it can also work to my detriment. And
Mm,
I want to encourage the viewers, the listeners, people who are here today. It is so great to be able to always look to become better, to level up in our skills, to learn something new. But I want to warn you that along with learning, you can be a passive consumer of content, of education, of and skills, but the skills don't really shape up, or we really don't learn it until we put it into practice. And this is what
right.
happens with many people. We feel it gives us this false sense of productivity of pride, of confidence, like, "Oh, I learned how to do this. I learned how to build a website. I learned how to blah, blah, blah." But did we really? Because if we really learned something, we have to really be able to put it into practice. And for me, I am great at signing up for a course. I am great for starting the course. And then I have to say, "Hey, Julie, go and put that into action and go and
Right.
do it," because that's really when we know. And I guess that's part of the teacher in me. There's something that we say in education is I do, we do together, and then you go and do it. And for me, when I'm learning something, right, whether it be a new marketing approach or something new within the business, I read about it, I learn it, then I start to teach it to my clients, because the best way of learning something is when you're doing it and telling somebody else how to do it. And
Yes.
then I sit back and I watch somebody else do it. And that's really where I hope people don't get stuck with just the learning, because the learning doesn't really
Yeah.
um, come to full circle until you've actually implemented it.
No, you're absolutely right, and the phrase you use actually makes me think of something that we say in medicine. We say, "See one, do one, teach one."
Yes.
So it's
See?
a very similar concept.
Mhm,
But I have a coach who talks about the way that we read books, because a lot of
mhm,
people read a lot of personal development books and things like that. But we need to stop in the middle of the book and to come up with things to implement, come
mhm.
up with action steps from what we're reading,
Yeah,
as opposed to just being a passive reader and thinking, oh, well, that was a great journey that this person had and I learned so
mhm.
much. So, thank you for saying that as
Yeah,
well.
I love that. I love that, and I think that your coach is 100% correct. I like to keep when I'm reading, and I do read a lot, but one of the things that I like to do is I'd like to keep a little actionable note in my phone. So, number 1, I keep notes on quotes that I like from the book, but I also go and I put things like, "Ooh, this book." So, for instance, this book I'm reading currently is, How to Start a Business in 48 Hours. And again, I've started a business, I teach others how to do that,
Sure.
but there's new nuggets that I found from there, and I thought, "Huh, I gotta implement that. I gotta go try that." So that you really take what you're learning and implement it. It's very important.
Yeah. So, did you, in this whole journey of yours, did you have a mentor? I know a lot of people talk about having the importance of mentorship. Did you have a mentor? And if you did, who was it and how did you identify that person?
You know, I would have to say, my biggest mentor was definitely, well, okay, there's 3 people that hold this spot, if you don't mind me
Okay.
sharing a little bit
No,
about each of
no.
them. My my latest mentor, the person that, really helped me in my corporate career and really, um, drives a lot of the stuff that I do in helping other women build their business, is the late founder of the company that I worked with last. She passed away in 2017. She is the person that recruited me to come work for her from the other company. We built a beautiful friendship. She was someone that was there for me when I went through a very difficult divorce and taught me the compassion that we need to have for women. She taught me what it is to be the kind of person that, we hear in that phrase, straighten somebody else's crown before doing
Yes,
our
yes,
own, right? That
yes.
was her. And she had big dreams. And the one thing that she did is very, and this is, I guess, why we got along. We would take the leap. We would take the leap and say, "Let's do it. Let's figure it out." And she really helped me to come into my own when it came to leadership. Really be able to um, know that if we had that dream in our heart, we can move forward, and you kind of figure it out along the way. And she was a
Yes.
wonderful mentor, so I love that. Of course, I would not be doing this question justice if I didn't talk about my dad. My dad has been an incredible mentor throughout my life. My dad has been gone for a few years now, but still, there's times in which I hear him. He is the person that helped me become a great executive as well. He is the one that would say, "Julie, if you don't shoot your shot, who will?" Right?
Yeah.
And when I asked for that promotion and all that other stuff, it's because my dad had encouraged me to be able to do that. And my company is called Go Confidently Services because that comes from the quote, "Go confidently in the direction of your dreams," which is from Henry David Thoreau. And my dad is the person who I first heard that quote from. And last but not least, and I go back to another person that has been gone for a long time, but still continues to mentor me. And that's my grandmother, my mom's mom. I saw my grandmother from a very early age, and she's been incredibly instrumental in my life. She was an educator, she was a concert pianist, but most importantly, she was a woman that was doing things beyond her limitations, her time. She grew up in an environment in which women got married and had babies, and
Mhm.
she had a full career. She was very independent. She wanted to continue to have her own she wanted to teach, she wanted to work, and, not only was not necessarily very, in vogue in her time because she was born at the turn of the 20th century, she also, came from a very affluent family in El Salvador, and most she didn't need to work, but she wanted to. And again, that's someone who taught me a lot about compassion and kindness, about giving back, about stepping up and saying, "I'll do it," and not being afraid. And also being the person that at the end of the day, when things kind of go wrong or south, you step up and you take responsibility for it. So she was an incredible woman, super strong. She had battled cancer at 70. And this is an age that was not the Peloton age. But
Right.
she took care of herself, learned and learned to walk again, learned to and exceeded at so many different things even after that battle. So I've learned a lot of my independence and freedom from her as well.
Wow, it sounds like you had some great teachers. I know when we talked earlier, you mentioned working on your health some before you launched into entrepreneurship. What role do you feel that your personal wellness plays in your ability to grow and change and pursue new endeavors?
I believe, and this is for me, right? This is one of the values that I have come to embrace. And by the way, I am not perfect at this, and I want to preface this answer with that. I'm a work in progress, but I do believe that our health has got to be one of these priorities because when we drain our cup, when we are tired, when we are not eating right, when we are not going outside, and by the way, that is so easy for me to get like really hooked into my work. But
Yes.
the reality is that our health is the first thing that we have. If we don't have our health, we can't do the work. We can't be there for anybody else. And ultimately, we won't be as impactful. And I take care of myself because I really have a dream. Like I talked about my grandmother. I want to grow to be welderly, not
Yes.
elderly,
Yes.
and that is incredibly important to me. And yes, there's so many failures that I have. And by the way, those failures are opportunities for me of learning how it doesn't work to take care of myself. For instance, you notice I have a cup of water, it stays here. I learned that if I don't keep this water here, I won't drink it. The same way that if I don't make a healthy meal, I will finish a day of work and then I'll go and my husband will say, "Let's get pizza." And I'll say, "Okay." Right?
Yeah.
I've also learned that if I don't get myself to bed at an early time, it'll be harder for me to get up in the morning. So, all of these things are the things that really affect how we show up. So, I encourage everyone that if you're not prioritizing your health, you're not prioritizing yourself, then you're really going to have a difficult time sustaining anything, whether it be a business or a career or even your relationships, because you're going to be draining your cup.
Absolutely. Absolutely. So you what it sounds like I'm going to transition into one of your areas is that you've developed the habits that it takes, to build a healthy life. And I know one of your coaching niches is the tiny habits. Can you tell us a little bit about that?
Absolutely. I'm so glad we're talking habits. I will tell you that the reason I have a I'm a certified tiny habits coach. And the reason I became a tiny habits coach is because, as with any other certification and training that I've been to, I do it for me because I am my best client. And I knew that there were issues and things and places in my life in which I wasn't as consistent and I wasn't as motivated. And I kept trying to figure out what was the breakup, what was the breakdown of information, and why wasn't I able to stay consistent? Why wasn't I able to do the things as I wanted to? And what I realized is that it came from me not having the right habits. And also not understanding that behavior is not driven by repetition. You're not going to create a habit by repeating it 20 to 30 times, because what you're doing is you're actually creating something that dwells and draws from motivation for you to create a habit. Habits are created by feeling good. So let's think about this, right, Sharita? When you decide, I want to go to the gym every day because I want to be in tip top shape, you're very motivated. You have this goal that you want to be in shape. And then all of a sudden you start going, and the habit starts to somehow, right? You think you're setting this habit because you've been going.
Yeah.
And then it becomes hard. And, it's harder to go. You don't feel like it. Maybe there's someone having a happy hour and you're not going to go to the gym after work. You'd rather go to the happy hour, right? So your motivation starts to wane. At that point, if you don't go to the gym, then you begin to beat yourself up. Oh, I didn't go to the gym. I'm terrible. And then what begins to happen, you go down that spiral, that shame spiral. Like, I didn't do it. I'm not good enough. I can't believe this. And all of that, then you stop not showing up because it becomes harder. Because if you show up, oh, it's going to be harder to start all over again. Whereas if we create a tiny habit, something small, like for instance, for me, I could say I want to drink a gallon of water a day, but that's not sustainable, right? It can happen. But once I'm not motivated to drink my water, instead, what I do is I keep the water here. That reminds me, oh, my water is there. Let me just take a sip. And when I take a sip, I celebrate. Oh, good job, Julie. You drank some water, right? And then I'm making myself good because I'm doing the thing. And now you start to create that consistency that gets you going. And it's not about you having that motivation that keeps you going. It's just automation. And it's automation because your brain has created that passageway in which you feel good, in which you know that, hey, every time I drink water, I feel good because I give myself props for that, as opposed to, oh my gosh, I didn't get to drink water. I'm a terrible person. I'll never get it. Oh my gosh. So yeah, so that's one of the things that I really encourage, and how I help my clients as well with their business. I can teach you, this is how you market, this is how you grow a business. But if you don't create the right habits around and the right behaviors, you're going to fall off the wagon. Life is going to happen. It's going to derail you. So you have
Yes.
to go back and really rely on the automations rather than the motivation.
So you talked about, we're talking about habits and about celebration. And I find that many women have a problem celebrating themselves. I don't
Mm.
know if they think that it's boastful or,
Mhm,
conceited or whatever. Why do you think it is that we have such a hard time celebrating ourselves? And then what can we
mhm,
do to kind of change the voice in our heads? Because, most I'm not going to say, yeah, I'm going to say most people,
mhm.
if you don't drink the water, if you don't go to the gym, you're absolutely right. We have that negative kind of, talk to ourselves. And so how do we reframe it to celebrate the little things?
I totally agree with you. I think that we're never taught to give ourselves props, right? As I mentioned, my dad is the one who was a mentor and taught me, right, how to like celebrate yourself. We live in a world in which we have been taught, "Hey, you need to be the demure lady. You need to be a lady. Don't speak up. That's rude." So we're living by a lot of different standards that are not true to who we are. We somebody else has defined what does it mean to be a nice woman, a good woman, a helpful woman, a good wife. Ultimately, what makes a good wife, what makes a good mom, what makes a good worker, an entrepreneur, whatever it is, the definition has to come from you.
Mm,
Look at your life and say, well, what does it mean? Does it mean the woman that is running from one thing to the other is exhausted and is barely making it and showing up for people? Or is sitting around really feeling, I guess, angry, like, oh, now I have to go to that meeting and I have to do this and I have to bake the cookies. And when am I going to have time for myself? Define, what does it mean to be who you want to be? Stop looking at the definition that somebody else gives you because that definition may work for them. But
yeah.
we're such individuals, we're different people with different value system as well. If being a good mom, right, means that you are going to show up at the PTA meeting with cookies, great. But ask yourself, do I want to bake the cookies? Or is it okay if I buy them? Don't judge yourself or don't worry about what other people are going to think because here's the reality. Number one, if someone is going to judge you for what you have done, it is based on the same judgment that they have for themselves. They see something in you that, "Oh, I'm not going to do that," but ultimately they are in one way or another. Number 2, most people are not paying attention to what you're doing. Most people,
Yes. Are paying attention to
we
themselves.
yeah, they pay attention to themselves. I have a lot of clients that say, "I'm starting my own business, but I don't know if I wanna post on Facebook. I don't know what people are gonna think about me." Honey, there's only 20% of the people that you're friends with who are going to see your post. And out of those 20%, not all of them will be online when you post. And most posts on Facebook go away after 8 hours. People have to go out and really seek it.
Yeah.
It's not going to be shown. So stop worrying about somebody else. And if somebody that you are worried about what their thought is going to be about what you're doing, ask yourself this question. Is that person doing what you want to do? Right? Because if that person is not doing what you want to do, is not the person who you want to be, then their opinion is inconsequential or it should be inconsequential. Don't give it weight. Give yourself the weight. Trust yourself. Trust your instincts and be ready to be okay with not being everybody's cup of tea.
Wow. You are dropping so many nuggets. I swear I could talk to you all night,
Oh,
but we're just about out of time. And
how does that
I know
happen? You make it so
I'm sure you
easy.
have other things. I know, but I appreciate it so much you coming here. So tell us how, if people want to work with you, first of all, tell us all the good things about you. Tell us about the book, about the podcast, about the coaching, about the retreat. Tell us about
Okay.
those things, and then tell us how we get in touch with you if we're interested in working with you.
Well, the best way that you can reach me is you can slide into my DMs on any of the social media platforms. I am Julie DeLucca-Collins. Julie DeLucca-Collins, not just DeLuca, not just Collins, but Julie DeLucca-Collins. Again, I'm on TikTok, Facebook, Instagram, Pinterest. I'm not on X or Twitter because that's just another dumpster fire.
Yeah.
But LinkedIn is another great platform where you can reach me. If you wanna go to my website is goconfidentlycoaching.com, and I have some really great resources. If you wanna learn habits, if you can do a 5-day habits coaching for free with me, it's on my website, so definitely go in there and check it out. And last but not least, what I would say is if you want a copy of my book, you can also slide into my DMs and I'll send you, a free copy of the e-version, of the Kindle version of the book. And I love to share it because it's not so much that I wrote this book, but the stories of the amazing individuals who have impacted my life, women and my dad who have gone confidently in the direction of their dreams. How they did it, what did they do, where did they do it? all of these stories are there for you to really be able to grasp and just soak in their greatness because the book is not about me, it's really about those people that I write about. And again, it's Confident You. You can buy it on Amazon or anywhere that books are sold. Confident You, Simple Habits to Live the Life You Have Imagined. And last but not least, my podcast is Casa de Confidence, the home of confidence. My husband and I have a little bit of conversation, banter, and then I interview an amazing guest who is on that journey to confidence, on that direction of their dreams and living the life they have imagined. So I love to have these conversations. They're really fun. And again, my husband is it's a great co-host, and we love to bring these insightful, educational, and really entertaining conversations at times.
Well, that's wonderful. And we're going to put all of that information in the comments, so you'll be able to reach out to Julie to get information about the 5 day coaching, about the book, about the podcast, and all of those things. So, one last question, Julie. If
Mhm.
there is one piece of advice that you could give to a boss lady or aspiring boss lady who's struggling with her confidence, what would it be?
Mm. I am going to encourage them to ask the advice of the future self they want to become.
Hmm.
Go and sit down, take a minute, and write a letter to yourself from the person you've become in a year, in 3 years, in 5 years from now. Use the wisdom from that person to guide you today. What did she do? How did she show up? What were her days like? And that person will give you that direction. That person will teach you. And that is the person that will help to guide you there. So don't be afraid of asking, how did I get to be a marathoner? Well, I guess she started to run every day, or she started to at
Yeah.
least put her shoes on. So ask that wisdom from that person. And that's the best advice I can give you. And I do that as well. And it has served me well.
I love that. So all the answers are inside of us. We
Mhm.
have it all already.
Yeah,
I
we
love
have
it.
to be able to listen. We have to be able to tune into that voice.
Yes. Well, thank you so much, Julie. Like I said, I could continue on for another hour, but I'm not going to hold you here and not
You're
going to hold our,
amazing.
our viewers here. Thank you, Facebook user who said I needed to hear this evening. Great show. We appreciate
Oh,
you joining us. And again, Julie, thank you so much for coming. And I really appreciate it. You've shared so many pearls with us. I can't wait to go back and listen to it again and
thank
to implement,
you.
implement, implement some of those lessons.
Thank
So
you
thank
so
you.
much for the opportunity to be here. And to the listeners, and if you're here, I want you to know that we're here together. We're not any better than anybody else. We're just linking arms. And if I'm a
Yeah.
little ahead in the road, I'm sending the elevator back down for you.
Thank you so much. We'll see you guys next week here
Bye,
at She
everybody.
Built It Boss Lady Chronicles. Take care. Good night.